There you go. Okay.
All right, it's official. Human Services Commission, December 18, 2024, call to order. We do have Commissioner Lucchesi and Commissioner Human that are not present. We do have quorum. For topic number 2, public comment.
No written or verbal or people present for public comment.
All right, thank you, Hannah. For number 3, approval for minutes. We have minutes for August 21st, 2024, minutes for September 19, 2024, and we have minutes of October 16, 2024. The edits approval.
We move to accept all minutes as as is.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Manning. Second.
I second.
Yeah.
Approved.
Okay, thank you all. We do have our next topic of agenda items. It's award 2025-2026 Human Services Grants update by Hannah.
All right. Well, first off, commissioners, happy December. Thank you so much for being here. I know this meeting was not intended. This is supposed to be a recess meeting, but we had a windstorm November 20th during our last meeting. So this information that I'm going to be sharing to you is essentially the same information that I was planning to share on the 20th with some edits because the world still moves on and there's some changes with a few of it. So I want to start off by informing you all with an update of our final recommendations for the 2025-2026 Human Services grants. When last time we've seen each other, it's been a while since we've had a regular commission meeting. It was back in August when we all approved the recommendations with additional funds. So kind of step back to remind you all, we had our foundational amount and then we had the opioid settlement funds come in. And so we prepared 2 recommendations to present to our city mayor. One was a recommendation if we were granted the additional funds, and one was granted without the additional funds. Saw each other was in August. At that point, our funds were confirmed that we would have the additional funds. So that is what Jaime and Manny presented to our city mayor, who yes, back in the day.
Oh my God.
That's why we need these refreshers. And so we presented that to our city mayor. Since that meeting, we've had some budget changes as a city. And that you may have seen our mayor's letter in regards to that. It is in the staff memo. It's in part to the communication from our city mayor of what we're seeing as an impact as a city with some project changes, some staffing position cuts. So all pretty big impacts. What this does mean now for our grants is that we no longer have the additional funds. So we have to go back to original recommendations without additional funds. So,
excuse me, without the opioid funds?
So where are the opioid? Can we ask?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too.
Great questions. So the opioid, the way that we are doing it, so the funding that needed to get cut is what we call general funds. General funds are tax dollar that we get from our construction or from people spending money in Issaquah. And so general funds is what funds our human services grant. So what we are doing in the budget cut is we are taking out general funds that are $130,000, which then the opioid settlement funds are going to fit that in.
Okay, so it's a quid pro quo.
Yes.
So we're still getting the
Yeah.
opioid funds, but we don't have the general funds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a little bit, so we basically have these grants kind of, it's the money's still there, the amounts are still there in that recommendations, but the buckets of money change.
It's coming from a different place.
Yeah, it doesn't change requirements for reporting. It doesn't change any of that. So what we are now moving back to is what we originally recommended. So thank you for doing all that work and having to like, I know that required a few extra meetings, but I'm thankful like that we were able to have that prepared for when all of a sudden we were told budget cuts, we need to figure this out. So in kind of a high level, what that does change from what you thought was probably going to be recommended. It changes us from going from what we originally were thinking would be 48 programs from 38 organizations down to 42 programs to 34 organizations. And where we saw the most significant cut, where I think cut was where the money went mostly was towards rental assistant programs and shelters. We definitely sprinkled in some money in our community resources, in our cultural specific services, but what we ultimately, where I feel the cut and what I see the dollar amounts is we really cut back on the shelter and rental system.
And then we have some for the food services for physical bank, food bank.
Yes, yes, yes. That was exactly. So some of those dollar amounts have changed for organizations, and then some of the organizations that I was hoping to fund, we will not be funding because of these budget cuts. So we're feeling it. We're definitely feeling it in human services. So, but on the flip side, it is still a good situation that we are at our base level. We still increased our funding from last cycle, $55,000. Right. So, I mean, we got to look at the positives in our current situation. Yeah.
Question.
Yes, Maureen.
So this 130, which is a one-time deal, are you counting that? Are you taking that away before you are talking about the increase of $55,000 over last year, or is that included in the increase of 55,000 over last year?
Yeah, that's included. I'm getting that number from the difference of our total amount of, we currently have 612,618, and this last cycle was 556,000.
So we're actually spending a little less of Issaquah money, and so I guess my question then is, how will that reflect in next cycles?
Cycle.
Yeah.
Great question, and definitely a concern of mine as well. We do have a set formula that we use that got us to the 612, and so we will use that same formula with the baseline of 612 for next cycle. So we're not going to use the less amount, so we'll treat it like 612. Does that make sense?
And the other question I have, Hannah, I'm sorry to hog the microphone here, is there were in the second go round, the extra meetings we had, there were some groups that we funded that hadn't been funded in the first cycle. Were those groups still not funded in the second? Now, did they get knocked off the list?
Are you talking about the comparison with additional funds versus without additional funds?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's four organizations that we were going to fund with the additional funds that no longer will. That includes, off at the top of my head, is Chinese Information Service Center Services, NAMI.
Hands Across the Bridge.
Which one?
Hands Across the Bridge.
That was in the
Hands Across the Bridge.
Oh, Friends. Do you mean Pride Across the Bridge?
Right.
Oh, yeah, they were a part of our original amount, so they are being funded this cycle.
But just not as much as we had bumped them up.
They
5,000.
Yeah, they were at minimum request.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
So we kept them at the same. Yeah.
Okay, good. Important program. I just wanted to make sure we're still going there.
Yeah. I've actually been working a lot with their executive director right now with the contracting, so I'm very excited about their organization.
Glad to hear that, Hannah.
Yeah. So any other questions or any other items in regards to the 2025 grants, 2026 grants?
And I know you promptly sent out letters to all the organizations. I heard from various organizations.
Yeah, yes.
We got our money.
Yes, it was a mixed feeling letter. It's always a hard one as a funder because you know you're going to disappoint people, and there's a lot of organizations that I'm very personally bummed that we're not funding, but you know we have our reasons for it, and we can't say yes to everybody, right? Otherwise, we're going with the peanut butter spread. That doesn't really align with our strategic plans. So that's why we have these toolkits in place and strategic plans to help us make these hard decisions. But yes, they have been informed, and we are in contracting negotiation periods right now. So we are working on finalizing contracts by end of January.
Well, I do have a question. You know, the new thing that was being started with this cycle,
Mhm.
where we were gonna, some of the smaller organizations, they weren't gonna be reimbursement grants, they were gonna be, so are we doing that?
Yes, so advanced payments is something that we are very excited to offer this cycle. We are finalizing, we have to have our attorney update our contract to reflect that. We are what we call a part of a pooled contract. So City of Kirkland ultimately holds the contracts and provides, pays the invoices. And so their pooled contract, we have 18 of our programs are in that, where they basically process the payments. They're doing advanced payments for all of it. And so they are basically going to receive payments in the first quarter. So in January, they'll receive 50% of their funding. And then in the third quarter, they'll receive their final amount.
So how are we choosing which ones of ours are grantees raising their hands to say, I mean,
Yeah, it'll be an opt-in program. So kind of per our kind of attorney's suggestion is that in order for advanced payments to be awarded, they have to be serving low income population. All of our organizations do serve that, so they just need to basically say opt in and like confirming, yes, this is who the population we serve, and yes, we want to opt into it. So anybody can opt into this program. If you're in the pooled program, you automatically get that payment cycle. So that'll be different.
Oh, okay. So that's what you were trying to explain. Okay. So if they're in the pool, they automatically get it.
Yeah. But for ISSAQA, it can be a choice. Do you think the reality though is we still technically are a reimbursement model? So we do need to have, and we do currently in one of the contracts have it in the clause of, we have to have something in case they don't make it, right? If they don't get to 50% of their grants. So we're really hoping that doesn't happen, of course, but we have to be prepared just in case. But yeah, so we're excited to see how that goes. I'll have a report for that. Once we've done.
Thanks for filling us in.
Yeah, of course. All right, well, that wraps up kind of that 2025 and 2026 human service grants updates. So I will just move us along because I'm just doing quick presentations tonight. All right, so one of the things that I like to do with you all is remember and do a little recap of what did we do this whole last year? What have we accomplished? And it's been quite a bit. And so I want to take this opportunity to kind of scoot back even back to 2023 to show this is our current cycle and what was the end year results to that. In 2024, we accomplished a lot in our work plan. And of course, the big task to applaud ourselves in is our grant recommendations. So as just a reminder, 2023 feels like a very long time ago, but it's a part of this current cycle that we're in. We had $556,720 awarded to 34 organizations, 42 programs. That was intended to serve for just under 5,000 residents. For actual numbers in 2023 was just over 15,000. We can't necessarily confirm if they're duplicated or not, but somebody who went to the food bank got counted as one versus somebody who went to our meals program. They may have both gone to those programs. So
they may have, someone that received services from the food bank might have also received services from the meals program.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the numbers that we have. And then this is kind of interesting looking at this current cycle that we're in, just seeing, how we have the same priority areas, but you can see how is the funding distributed with programs and with money. And I have a comparison slide where you'll see the differences, but a lot of our funding, majority of it went to our housing continuum program, a lot to shelters, really. Some highlights of 2023, the food bank saw back in 2023 their largest year. In 2024, I think they're going to have even higher numbers than this, but they had 7,369 unduplicated Issaquah residents. They've seen many more. I was in a meeting with them just yesterday, and I think it was yesterday they said they had their largest day visit. And I feel like they say that a lot. So it just tells me how much they're growing.
Yeah.
I've even seen news articles, like I know other food banks are seeing a big influx in this season. So our meals program, another local program, provides hot free meals. Saw over 300 individuals, served over 6,600 meals. So a lot of work there as well. I think some of the other highlights is, the number you saw, the 5 versus we saw 15,000. We tripled with our funding. We saw triple the amount of residents we were hoping to serve. So the organizations have been busy doing a lot of great work. And then one thing to note too in our efforts is, and the biggest feedback I've been receiving is just the network opportunities we've been able to provide our nonprofit organizations, and them learning about their organizations have been very valuable. So it was a good year. And then in 2024, we also kind of seeping in from 2023 to 2024, we had our site visits. We also did a mid-year review of our strategic plan. We had many of our cultural events that many of you were able to participate in. The resource fairs were a huge success this year. We had joint meetings, a lot of them actually. We did our equity training, and then of course we had our grant application. So a good view of how much we have done and how much you've been able to participate in. Just as a reminder, and this will be important for one of our next topic conversations, back in January of 2023, commissioners, you decided to do site visits by priority area. And so you reviewed, did site visits and presentations from the organizations of our cultural organizations for all applications. So some of these organizations we did fund, some of them we did not, but we made sure that we did site visits or had presentations from all of them. We had a lot of great events. I will say one of the best year for human services for our events, partnering with some of our local organizations. Black History Month, we had an art gallery here at our community center. In May, we had our AAPI event around by the Circle. That was a beautiful, just vibrant celebration. We had Pride Month, partnering with the Garage and one of our equity board members. Hispanic Heritage Month. I know Jaime was there. That was at the Pickering Barn. That was our first time having a cultural event at the Pickering Barn. It was a big dance party. It was amazing. They also, this is ran by the Circle. They had a big, what's that big like robot on stilts thing?
It looked like the movie. What's the character? Predator.
I don't know.
And it had, but he was probably what, 8 feet?
Oh yeah.
8 feet, and he was just dancing along and had lights everywhere. And
Wow.
Somebody on stilts?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. It was very.
The kids loved it, so I just said that. The
Oh,
kids
I
and the
bet.
families.
Oh, that's cool.
Very family friendly event. My kids were there dancing, busting out moves. It was great. And then of course we had Welcome Week. That's our big one that the city ultimately leads on that. So that was a very fun event as well. One of our biggest ones so far. Resource fairs, again, are great opportunities for our community members to learn more about our nonprofit organization. So we partner with our Chalk Art Festival. So that was in July. That was actually fairly small, but like impactful is the information I got. And then at our Issaquah Culture Fest during Welcome Week, we had 44 booths. And it was a hot day, so We survived that, and that was a very big success. So I just love these pictures. I normally don't throw out pictures for presentations, but I couldn't help but share just some of the performances we had. It was just well attended, well received by our community members. So I'm very excited with the budget cuts. We still will be looking at some of these cultural events for cutting back on 2025, but we will still be doing Welcoming Week, Culture Fest. So more to that. You may have forgotten, but you did a few joint meetings with other departments and boards and commissions. So early on in the year, we did a climate vulnerability assessment, communication tool concept with our sustainability. They wanted some input and feedback. We did a transit study for equity analysis and the link rail envisioning. These are all pretty recent, actually. And then the citywide strategic plan. So looking at that larger plan and providing input there. And our joint Eastside Human Services Equity training we did in preparation for the grant review.
So when do we revisit the strategic plan?
That was, if you maybe you were there, is it Pickering Barn?
No, I mean, when do we revisit that?
Oh, revisit that. Actually, that's been adopted. So I think that was kind of one of the final focus groups that they were completing. And so that has now been adopted by council. I think it was December 2nd.
Is there a timeline on it where we have to look at it again?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I'm sure they'll probably do a mid-year review. It's every 5 years. So yeah, so I hope you're still around, Manny. And then, of course, the heavy lift this year was our grant reviews. We had 95 applications, whoosh, over 2 million in requests, 60 different organizations. What that process entailed was starting off with some training, some equity training to set us up on the right path. We looked at the review tools and had preparation in how to review these applications and how to score these applications. We did kind of divide and conquer. So we broke it up in categories instead of reviewing all 95, which some cities do it that way. You instead were able to review a quarter of them. You also came up with 2 recommendations, not just 1, but 2. That's a big deal. And then, of course, Jaime and Manny being able to present that to the mayor. That was a great way to close off. And again, just you've seen these slides before, but just wanting to remind you, this is our final dollar amount, 612. This will be the formula up top that we will use again for next cycle, with the baseline being 612. And then this is again reminding it's one-time opioid settlement funds. It's 130,000 we're able to incorporate per year. And then this is again, oh yeah.
How long does that fund last? Is there a?
That's a good question.
So the way, yeah, the way that the opioid settlement funds is basically said, here's $260,000. You use how you want it. So
But that's it. So that's a one-time.
So that's how we're going to use it, is embedded into our human services grants to fund our behavioral health programs. But with opioid settlement funds, we do get an annual amount. I don't know the exact, but we're talking anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000. So, and that comes in every year. So we can use that towards
Every year forever, every year for.
either, I don't know exactly.
Okay.
I haven't, we will see it, I think until 2050, I've heard. But
Wow.
Are we talking about the opioid grant?
yeah, the opioid settlement fund.
Well, I thought we're doing 130 in 2025, and then 130 in 2026. And then you're saying we're getting more.
But we're only getting 10,000.
Mhm. So the cities will get different amounts based off their size, and so we get a large chunk of funding like this. This is called the one-time settlement funds, but then we also get additional settlement funds that come in
Got it.
every year, and it's enough to maybe we do a campaign for prevention, or maybe we provide trainings for organizations. So there's a lot of different things we can do with it when we are prepared to have that conversation in the next year or two, probably, we'll bring it to the commission for some feedback.
See, my concern is that, look at it this year, we had X amount set aside plus the 130,
Yes,
but we ended up putting that into the general fund. So therefore, we really couldn't focus on the opioid problem on this. Is that going to continue?
it didn't magnify anything we wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't exactly. And that is
Amplify, yeah.
exactly. I mean, so the opioid settlement funds have to be used for specific purposes. There's a huge list of how it can be used. And so we've allocated and identified the programs that equal 130,000 that are under that category. So, yeah.
And they already equaled 130 with version 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah. I was just concerned that
yeah.
if you were going to put emphasis on those areas,
Yeah.
you're not really putting any more emphasis on it from the year before because we took those funds out and basically you're just keeping it, level, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the way it's going.
Yeah, unfortunately, the timing of it, like fortunately and unfortunately, right? Because we have budget cuts. So like we could have had only $400,000 or $500,000 technically, right? If we didn't have this to kind of help save, kind of be our buffer. So yeah, I was very excited for the additional funds. Let's just say that. And it was a very sad thing to pull back that. And now, it's hard when you're saying you're given something and then it's taken away. Yeah. So that's always a hard position to be in for sure. And that's unfortunately where we were at. So it's just being a part of the bigger picture,
Hannah?
Yes, Maury?
Is it forecasted that we will have another budget shortfall next year?
No, they're making some very big changes. So we are on a 2-year budget cycle. And so they're making adjustments so that way this doesn't happen. One of the ways they'll do that is in the forecast of our revenue was construction. As a city, we receive a lot of funding through construction, but that they're going to basically remove that because that's not guaranteed. What was forecasted for this last year, there was supposed to be some construction happening that didn't end up happening. So we lost a lot of money that way. And so they realized this is not a safe way to continue to forecast our future budget. We need to remove that and reallocate that kind of funding to something different.
And my understanding too was sales tax revenue. So we're being much more conservative go forward. I mean, we just didn't have the rebound after COVID that we thought we would have. So most of the budget is from sales tax revenue. So they just didn't get it.
Yeah. And we have a huge cost increase of our police department, and we have to contract with Eastside Fire and Rescue, and their revenue or their expenses rather went up. I want to say 15%. Don't quote me on that, but it went up significantly. So those costs of our judicial system with attorney costs have also gone up. So expenses have gone up and revenue has gone down, therefore budget issues. So yeah. And we're not the only city kind of wrestling with this. It's a very common thing along other cities and the east side. And so it's kind of what we call the funding cliff, right? The funding's fully, truly ended and everyone's feeling it.
Can you, on these 4 categories here, the first one, the green is housing.
Oh yeah, sorry. Housing. The next one is community resources. The next one is behavioral health.
Okay.
And then this one is cultural specific services.
Okay, super, thank you.
Yeah, and so from last cycle, it was 200,000 for housing, so that got dropped significantly. And our cultural specific was 91,000, so that almost doubled. Yeah, and it's how we kind of recategorize stuff too, is a little bit. So within cultural specific, there are behavioral health programs,
and there was some housing stuff.
Yeah. So it looks like cultural specific programs got a lot of money, but it actually is distributed in the 3 other categories. But they're cultural specific organizations. So I think that's a testament of what we were prioritizing. We really recognize cultural specific organizations are important to fund. And then just a kind of a highlight in here, I thought was interesting that we are having 12 new programs. So last cycle we had 42 programs. This cycle we also have 42 programs, but 12 of them are new. And they're from 8 new organizations. So I'm excited for some of those new partnerships and meeting some of our community needs with them. So it's going to be a good next cycle here. All right, so next steps here. So looking back December 2nd, that's when we did have the adoption of the budget. Our recommendations were embedded in the budget, therefore were approved. We are tonight going to be working on just our draft work plan and brainstorming. And so next meeting will be adopting those and posting those on our website. In February, I hope to have kind of a report to you all about 2024 outcomes and what did the final year look like. And then we will talk more about it, but we will be working on site visits and what that will look like for the rest of the year. Any questions? Other comments?
Hannah, you went, you said the 15th and then the 19th of February. Was there a March date also?
Oh, I didn't put the March date, no.
No, don't worry about it. I didn't get it, so.
Yeah,
It would probably be March,
3rd Wednesday.
3rd Wednesday would be the 18th. Does that sound right? March 18th? Yeah.
I think so.
Wait, Thursday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, sorry.
19th.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Tuesday. You're right, March 19th. There we go.
All right. Okay, anything else? I can move us along then. Okay, our work plan. So you do have a copy printed out for your reference. Very much our draft form. So I'm hoping to make some edits with you all tonight. Really, my purpose in reviewing this is, I thought it would be helpful for us to step back and remember okay, we're a commission, but really what do we do? What kind of difference do we make? What's our purpose? So I want to start off with reminding us of what our impact is and what our mission is here. I also want to review what's on the docket for us for 2025. And then I do have some very specific questions that I'm hoping to receive your guidance and feedback on. So, right, in any board or commission, really the main role is to advise our city mayor and our city council on specific topics. For us, it's obviously going to be human services. And that includes some of our planning, it includes our funding decisions, but also different emerging needs that come up within human services. I think over the years, we've seen that with the equity board coming from our Human Services Commission and our different events that we've had. So there's our strategic plan is a big part of it as well. So your role is to really touch on the human services pieces and what that practically looks like and the tasks that you are assigned. The big heavy lift you all just completed was our funding recommendations. And so presenting that is really the final and big main outcome. You make some very big decisions that really impact our nonprofit organizations who really provide these specific services. So you get to be a part of that impact and that decision. You review those applications. You are a big part of our strategic plan. We've got in 2026, we will be diving really deep into that for our next 5-year plan and preparing for that. And then of course, any other emerging needs that come up within ISSAQA and our human services needs. So let's just take a quick look at the work plan that we have. So I'm just going to go over it at a high level and then I'll come back with a few questions for you all. So the way that this sheet is set up is kind of our citywide format that we use. You'll see kind of the general item. Here's a little bit of description. And then the gray box is saying when we will be doing it. So you can see there's some that are just a one-time thing, and there are other things that will be repeated on a quarterly basis. So this first quarter, I'm going to be working hard on our contracts and scopes of work. So that'll be something that I'll keep our commission posted on. The next thing that we'll go in more detail, I have some questions for you for how you'd like to do it, is this is our year where we do some site visits and learn more about our nonprofits that we are funding. So we have a couple different options of how we can go about that for this year. I'm going to provide an annual report. I'll provide, of course, your quarterly reports. I want you to all know how our funded organizations are doing and provide any highlights or any challenges that are coming up and emerging. You'll receive human services updates and different department updates with that. And if there's any implementation updates for our strategic plan. So that's kind of the high level general topics that we're looking at. There's a few kind of just to-dos, which will be the work plan. We'll have recruitment. So I think it opens in March is when we'll be recruiting. We do have 2 vacant positions. So I'll have to double check whose terms are ending. So those can be renewed. I hope you will consider renewing them if you're up. But we will also be working on filling those vacancies.
I think I am, yeah.
And that is part of a broader, I mean, all the commissions,
Yes.
the recruitment process is going on at, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So that's just kind of that. And I would love to fill those vacancy positions, but we'd have to go through a special recruitment approval and process. So we're just going to wait until March. And then
That makes sense.
we'll do the interviews in April. And then in May, they'll be appointed. And we'll look at chair and vice chair position. We'll go through any orientations for new commissioners. There's for open government trainings.
You and I, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I just renewed. I'll be darned.
I think it's because
Oh, I was an alternate.
then you got stuck into, yeah.
One of
Yeah.
those, probably 1-year terms. So we'll see what opens up. And
Am I on for another 10 years?
of course you are, Manny. You're never leaving me. Yeah, so we can talk more about that too and kind of see what that all looks like. But yeah, recruitment for sure. Hopefully we'll add a few more people to fill those vacant units. Recess meetings were kind of looked a little bit different in 2024, but I'm proposing we follow our council's recess meeting schedule. So in August, so summer break vacation time, and then in December. So if something changes, we can certainly adjust, but that's where we're at. And then we'll talk more. What I'm hoping to seek input are the highlighted areas, so training and some joint meetings. So let me pull up my questions I have. Any comments or questions about the work plan and what we're looking at? Okay, so what I would love to figure out, and we'll have to see how you all would like to do, is these site visits. Again, the intention is to just better understand these. You know, you looked at these applications, you know these organizations through the paper, but what does it look like in their building, or what does it look like with their staff? What does it actually mean to be part of this organization? So again, last cycle, you decided to use the off year doing cultural specific programs that who applied. So I think that was a total of 8 site visits. We kind of divide and conquered a little bit where we had 2 commissioners go to one site and then do a report out. So that's how we did last year. So want to present 3 options, and of course I'm open to anything else. But the first option being do the same thing, so you can select a priority area and we can look at all the applicants for that program, and we can kind of divide and conquer. We can work on assigning organizations we can assign commissioners to those organizations and do a report out throughout the year. We also have the other option of them coming to us. So maybe we don't do necessarily site visits and we go on site and go, you know, a lot of it was we went to their events or different things like that, or tours. But instead we can, anyone who's funded, I can set it up where if you're funded by Issaquah in the next 2 years, you need to come do a presentation on your organization. So we had quite a few of those kind of online presentations. I would assume most of them would be online, again, PowerPoints, sharing some data information. So if you found that to be helpful and you would want to know all of the organizations, I think that would be the most efficient way, is to have them come to us.
The only thing there is with number one, I felt like, and I didn't participate, so I want to like put that out there because I was never able to work out the schedule. Number one, it's definitely allowing, you're going to their site, and so it gives them the option to say, here's what works for us. Number two means that they have to have someone available on a Wednesday evening on the third Wednesday of the month to do the presentation. I like number two because I think it's super efficient. But I'm just pointing out that does it puts the burden on them. And I do think I especially remember your report out. You went to the African resource, I can't remember the name. The Indian one. And I just remember for me, it was very interesting to hear what it was like to actually be on site. But that's a much bigger commitment on the part of an individual commissioner.
Right. And is there a hybrid option?
Yeah, I would like a hybrid option.
Because some places, if they don't have the setup to do a nice, PowerPoint or
right,
that a visit would be nice. I know I really enjoyed the visit, but I also enjoyed the ones that we had online that actually went through. But those are usually the bigger
that have the staffing and the flexibility.
Yeah. Hybrid meaning for you as an individual commissioner to connect with one of the organizations online, or hybrid meaning you go on site for some of them and then some of them present online.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
So, and I have a question on number 3 here, collaborate with other human services cities for organization, which I just love that idea. But say, like, because these are like official recorded meetings. So if someone comes and they give their presentation and we all hear it, like, can we invite the other commissions at the other cities? If you want to hear from this organization, you can sign into this. How does that work?
Yeah, so the way that it was, so City of Redmond invited our commission and all Eastside commissions to join them. They are having in January, they are having a panel of organizations in person present at their commission meeting. And so Kirkland, Issaquah, and them have been invited. The January topic is organizations that serve disabilities. And so actually the 3 of the 4 organizations didn't even apply to Issaquah that are presenting. One of them did not receive funding.
Interesting.
So that's part of the challenge. And so I did ask, so City of Redmond, they were the ones who brought it up. So I asked what their schedule was going to be. And so they have it like in February would be opioids. So behavioral health type of organizations. March, they have one Redmond, which I don't know what that is. But then April, they have youth programs. And then in July, they're doing For Tomorrow.
And what are the dates for these, Hannah?
I don't have the exact dates. So I mean, so I mean, there's if we want to go that route where we do the joint thing with other city commissioners, it's going to be a lot of coordination, right? Because it'll be deciding who's going to host. Like, is it going to be Redmond? And like that's the date that it's going to be. So it's something and we will have less control of who it will be, right? Right. Some of them will be like if we went to the January one, I'm sure it'd be very interesting to learn about these organizations, but they didn't even apply for Issaquah, so is it really relevant to us?
So did you see the calendar that Redmond had already decided on, right?
Yeah, and it's very this is a very new thing. My counterparts in Redmond and in Kirkland, they're amazing, and we would work with them, and Sammamish, we would work with them if this is the route we would want to go. So it would be, I would be advocating for Issaquah and what our needs are in planning and organizing that.
But we could do the same thing, right? We could say in January, here's who we're going to have on in February, March. Here's the programs we're going to invite.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, we could,
Good to have
that's how,
some-
go ahead,
Would it
Mark.
be good to have some of the pooled people, that we're sharing with the other, that we're funding with the other cities together? It'd be good to have those in some kind of a deal.
Yeah, that would actually be a really good idea. I'll present that to City of Kirkland to see how they plan to do that with, because the pooled ones would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Super interesting. I mean,
Yes.
again, it's the burden of, we're not, if the city of Kirkland says, here's who's coming on this night,
Do you want to come? You're invited, you don't have to.
but
Maybe
it
you
also,
can do it online too, right?
oh, yeah, for
So
sure.
you can just basically, come
Yeah,
into that particular, presentation.
Right.
And then, I mean, if we're gonna, and it kind of sounds like we might be leaning towards hybrid, right? Just, I mean, I would like that. And instead of having, number one, where we just pick a priority area, I think it would be nice for commissioners to go through and, you know, who our grantees are next year and see which organizations really pique their curiosity and which ones they want to do a site visit to. What do you guys think of that?
We kind of did that this year, you know?
Yeah.
We picked the.
Yeah, we
just
picked the area that we were in and then
No,
did
no.
site visits from that, I believe.
No, this past, I guess it was 2023.
Mhm.
We picked organizations that were just within the cultural specific sector.
yeah, you got to pick, but we chose the priority area. And I actually wasn't a part of that conversation. I was on leave during that time, so
Okay.
I can't recall why. I think there was a reason why there was.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm just saying, if somebody has one that they really want to visit.
What if like each commissioner committed to 2 or 1 or physical site visit in the year of choosing? Is that what you're saying? Like,
Something like that, but then, I mean, then if we start doing these two, I mean, and then what was that?
Yeah, and
A whole
there's a lot of
presentation.
coordination going on because, you know, if they're going to present with Redmond, then you don't have to visit, right?
Unless you really want to, because the visit really is different.
But again, no, I get your point with that too, because again, we're talking about the burden on them. Okay, well, they have to do their Redmond presentation on Tuesday, January 16th. And then I'm going to come it works for me to come do a site visit on, I mean, like I want to be, I guess I want to be respectful of their resources and what they have available. I'm super interested in learning more about some of the new organizations we've funded, but some of those were also pretty small. So, you know, I don't want them to spend all of their time appearing in meetings and doing site visits when they got to be doing the work too. So I guess I just want to be mindful of that.
So have we given you a good?
Any help? Yeah.
Yeah.
We want it all.
I know. How do I give it to you?
A little bit all over the place. I haven't heard from Jaime though.
I do like, as far as site visits, I do like number 1. I think we can be very methodical for 2025. You know, given the way the economy is doing and I think it's, you know, and how we're trying to interact with community in person and connect.
Mm-hmm.
I do like number 2, where maybe we have 3 to 4 organizations come to our meeting. And I think with a guideline of, we don't have to present a half hour. It could be just, hey, 5-10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
Oh,
just
yeah.
simple, hey, just so we can get a name and face and
I
roll
totally
that way.
agree.
You know, for me personally, I think it would go far in terms of engagement piece versus just the PowerPoint. Just hey, what's going on, the highs and lows and
Challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those presentations, I probably maybe lean into you guys what you'd want to know, because I think I wouldn't say come over and present. I would say, hey, here are the 3 questions that we want to know. Like 1, give us a 2-minute overview of your organizations and the programs you offer. Hone in on the program that we are funding. Tell us more specifically about that program, and then how does it specifically, like what does Issaquah specific services look like, right? Because many of these organizations serve a lot of people, but we care about Issaquah. And so we want to know what their impact is for Issaquah. So I think I'd ask, organizations, big overview, program, insight, Issaquah impact, and then highlights, and then challenges.
I'm always interested in challenges.
Yes. Oh, same.
I mean, and then there's some organizations that are so small, and I can even speak for one
Mhm.
that we funded, Influence the Choice. It doesn't have a building.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, so,
right,
I mean, people could go to a board meeting.
yeah.
But,
Or one of their events, they have some good events.
right, yeah.
So Hannah, would it be helpful, I'm just trying to think about
Yeah.
this, with the number of organizations that we funded and everything, I like the idea of figuring out, maybe individually which ones we're most interested in.
Well, we can kind of go with I'm sorry, maybe, you know how we're selective for a certain group?
Yeah,
Maybe a
yes,
certain area, maybe we can, I don't know. if we
look
can-
within our.
Yeah,
our-
or we can be open to it too, you know, hey, I want to know more about this, you know, like mine was behavioral health, like I'd like to know
Right.
one of those agencies and I can report back, say, hey,
Yeah.
here's what I visited, here's what I learned, here's some things that, you know, I can bring to the group.
I can't remember if we actually picked our assigned area first and then visited, or was it the other way around?
The commission decided to do cultural specific applications. And then you went and picked your top one and top two that you'd want. And then from there, we assigned you.
And I was probably, I mean, we were probably at the meeting where that decision was made.
Yes.
But I don't remember exactly how we funneled into that.
Right, I think so. So I think what the thought is of choosing a priority area, so it's kind of to be equitable and they're not any biases, right? And so because
Okay.
we're trying to say
Yeah,
we gave all of the organizations the same opportunity to present,
that we're in a group.
right? That we're in a group,
Yeah,
and,
nice. Okay.
and that's why because 42 it was 34 organizations that you need to visit is a lot for you all to go out and do. We certainly could have them come here. So from what I've been hearing, I have kind of a way to do maybe all of them a little bit. So what I would like to consider is, one, everybody commits to doing an on-site visit to one organization of your choice.
Okay,
It can be any organization, which one you would like to learn more about and actually be a site visit and to do. I think one in the year, you can do more than one, certainly. But and I will also say if commissioners are not able to commit to one, that is okay. This is not a requirement. But I think if we can commit to one on-site visit to learn more and to present, you know, what you learned and what you experienced, we can get the on-site experience, and that could be, again, just a preferential choice. Then what I can do is I can invite all of the organizations in my contracting process. I can invite them in the next 2 years. Here's our schedule. Would you like to visit us? You do not need to. But here, would you like to come and do a 5-minute presentation, 5 minutes? Opportunity can be hybrid. So that way they all have an opportunity, blanket statement, to come present or not present, and we'll schedule around that. In addition to those two, I can also work with our city partners in Redmond and Kirkland and Sammamish to see what their topics and their schedules of presentations look like, and then present it to you as an option of saying, hey, I've learned that City of Redmond are going to have this topic in the spring or this month, and these are the organizations. Commissioners, are you interested in going in person to Redmond? Because that's also a big ask for you guys, is going on. Most of them are in person, and we don't all need to go.
Well, and like you said, none of these are have-tos. We're all volunteers here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would everything would be optional. I like that idea.
Okay.
Even the ones that they come in person are podcasts. Right? So, you know, like if there's someone sitting here, they could be watching it. They don't have to be there.
Yeah.
To actually see the presentation.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Some of these cities, I do need to give them a heads up if we were going to be online visitors, because they're not like set up quite like we are. They would need to have.
I just assume.
Yes, I know they should be, right? But I know some of them say like you need to be able to do it.
They don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this now and, you know, the new youth center that opened up on Willow.
Yes,
I'd like to go see that.
that would be a really cool one.
That opened up less than a year ago, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we gave it 20 grand.
Yep.
And so how do youth from Issaquah get there? Just a little bit of a segue.
Yeah, they would most likely bus there.
Is that in
Yeah.
Redmond, right?
It's in Kirkland. It's a new facility in Kirkland.
That's it.
And it's, see, we don't have anything here.
Yeah, no shelters, no physical shelters here.
What's the usage from the Issaquah side on that?
We didn't fund it last cycle, so don't have numbers for that, but for the other, there was another shelter service. I'd have to look at those numbers, but it's low. It's in the single digits. Yeah. Mhm.
So they would
So
just have to
important,
get
though.
themselves there. Okay.
Or connect to a case manager there and they may provide rides, but yeah, typically how they get there, or you know, they're dropped off there by police or by other, you know, outreach workers.
I had a question.
Oh, yes, Maury?
Oh, that's important stuff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is,
So do you want to hear from us regarding what programs interest us? I think what's going on in my brain is I said, Hannah, I'm really interested in doing a site visit to Crises Connections. But they're also going to be doing a presentation at the Redmond meeting. And then you say to me, well, why don't you just sign in to the Redmond meeting rather than doing a site? I see this generate a lot of work for you. That's my concern.
appreciate that.
Just
Mhm.
like,
Yeah. So this is how I see it working so far. What I would do is I've sent out an email because we have some commissioners missing and kind of give them these instructions and saying, here's the list of who we are funding. By this date, let me know which one you would like to do an on-site visit between now and November.
I think if that's where you want to visit, you should go.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't, that would be because I see who's going to be an online presentation now or not. So I think it really is which organization, like you really would like to get your, like, you know, foot in the door and learn more about that organization and see it firsthand. The other thing that we could also consider too is a lot of these organizations have different events throughout the year. I can make sure that I'm informing you of these events, and here's an opportunity to learn more about IACS. They're having an event in Redmond at this time.
Yeah, I see you developing a calendar that just has that's all it has on it. I think you're right.
And to be quite honest, if we're concerned about workload for Hannah, I've actually just gone to places on my own.
Yeah.
no, but what I'd like to know, so one, I'm like, okay, I want to do Eat Happy now. Well, I don't want to go out there and do that if you're going 2 weeks from now, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if that was one that also appealed to you, and I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah. So maybe what I'll do is I'll send this homework out, and then by January 15th meeting, commissioners will present their preference choice of where they would like to do, and then
I like that idea.
Shoot. And then what I'll do is once I know who's assigned to an on-site visit, I'll would you guys decide, would you like to do like staff? Would you like me to just email you the information? Yes, because some of you may want to do this in January. Some of you be like, I'm gonna wait till the summertime to deal with, look into this. So
It sounds like we're trying to have a hybrid of all three of these. Going,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how this is what's I only see one person's name on this whole presentation today, but it happens to be.
Yeah. I've already visited Porchlight. Have people visited Porchlight?
Oh, I put that on my list. I have not.
oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, you should go.
Oh, well, I'm sending him an email. Don't tell her.
Councilmember Michelle and I were there, and
Yeah, there's something very special about being on site, and that's
I agree.
so. I mean, it would be really cool if you guys had the time and interest to do more than one. But I know people. This is volunteer, so I don't want to burden. And again, if we have 7 commissioners, and So that means we get to have 7 on-site experiences and presentations. I think that's pretty good. But again, people can do extra credit if they want. So yeah, so I'll send out a follow email for you to kind of be prepared for which organizations you'd like to do your site visit on. We'll talk about it. That'll give me then a kind of a schedule, and then we'll figure out how you'd like to do, if you need a warm handoff or contacts or anything like that. I will also, in my contracting in this next, come January, when I'm meeting with our organizations, I will invite them to do a 10-minute total presentation to our commission and board with kind of the guidelines we discussed.
That's awesome.
And I will continue to work with our amazing Northeast funders, partners, and see what it will look like. I think that's a new thing we're trying. So I'll come back with you with those options that we can say, yeah, let's do this, or like, nah, we're not. It doesn't make sense for us.
Yeah, I could see myself visiting someone, and also if Redmond's has a presentation going on with
Right.
Nolan, just, you know,
And
Yeah.
the thing I like.
call them into that.
No, and the thing I like about that, there's compelling stuff with all 3 of these, but the
Yeah.
thing I like about that is kind of presenting that united coordination between East Side cities that are all dealing with the same
Yeah.
organizations, problems. You know, I think it shows that there's a high interest in working together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe, you know, when you have a conversation with the other cities, is that maybe we should concentrate on the pool.
Yeah.
Ones, right? So that way, all the cities that are engaged, involved in that, and that
I like that.
giving them funds.
Yeah. No. I think that's a great suggestion as well.
Has everybody been to the garage, which is just through that door?
I haven't been in there.
Okay, we gave them 24 grand.
Yeah.
That would be, I think,
Easy.
it would be easy.
Well,
You know
what's
what?
that time?
I could schedule
We'll change the.
I could schedule a little site visit
Just before we come.
right before we
I
come
was
in.
gonna say,
Like
yeah.
a 15-minute tour for all of our
Yeah.
commission right
That'd be
before we
great.
start.
That'd be-
Right, and then Kaylee's really big on having the students do a lot of the leadership.
Yeah.
And we can have ask, and Kaylee will probably suggest this, have the students then do a little presentation maybe,
Oh, I love that.
or
idea.
walk us through or something. Yeah.
Give them a choice of what they want to do, you know, this is when we're coming, you know,
Yeah.
this work for you guys, and
Yeah. Not your problem, but my problem is I'd have to figure out how to post that as a public meeting.
That was gonna be my next, yeah, that was my next.
Okay, yeah, so that's just logistics. So would you want to do this in addition to a commission meeting, or would you want to do it like in lieu of
you know, before one would be great. because
right
they're
before
there.
one and then
you
come
know?
back and just do our.
Oh, yeah, because it won't take very long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll work with Kaylee on that.
It's funny because like the food bank's right here.
Right.
Issaquah Community Services is right here. The meals program is right
Do you
here.
guys want to consider those ones too, or
I
do
mean, I'm just pointing out that
Yeah.
there is stuff that would be kind of low hanging fruit.
Yes, I agree. And yeah, and we might as well visit them.
Right.
I mean, the timings do work. Meals, we'd have to do a little bit early because they're from 5 to 6. So I like those ideas. That's good.
Yeah,
Local site visit.
and it also keeps those on the toes because they realize that we're engaged.
I agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
yeah, and that you care. I mean, that you care.
And then we're trying to educate ourselves that we're, yeah.
So this whole different thing of, okay, I gotta fill out this paperwork, and they're gonna send me some money, you know, as in, oh, they're looking at what we actually do. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that.
Has everybody been able to at least view the Issaquah community meals at the community hall? Yeah. Do you serve? Do you help serve?
I have in the past,
Yeah,
not.
Yeah. but I mean,
For the
that,
senior centers.
anyways, again, that would be low hanging
Oh,
fruit.
yeah.
Mhm.
And there are a
Yeah.
lot of people that depend on meals there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the numbers.
Every
speak for
night.
themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we have 4 options for site visits. I think we're gonna be nice and busy. I like it though. It's gonna be good. I think I like the ideas on that. Okay, we kind of tapped into this. Sorry, I have 2 more questions for you all. This one is for joint meetings. So we've been asked in this last year to kind of, I've noticed when certain departments are going through a project and they're inviting the equity board, they've been now inviting Human Services Commission. Have you enjoyed those joint visits with the equity board? Have you enjoyed being a part of kind of providing some feedback in different department projects? Is that something that you are willing to do in this next year if we are asked? And is that something that you would like to see as part of our work plan?
Yes, yes, and yes.
I'm with my,
Ditto.
what he said.
Yeah, on the last ones we did, there was a few joint meetings and it was very informative.
Yeah.
And it also allowed those giving the presentations onto it once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I will say I have not currently been asked yet to be a part of any sort of advisory boards or projects, but it doesn't mean I won't. So I just kind of wanted to gauge interest. So I'm here.
Personally or?
Human Services, yeah, Human Services for our commission, yes. I get invited to things, Manny, it's okay.
You bring the dessert.
Okay, so if we are invited, we are open to those opportunities. And I'm also hearing with the other East Side Human Services Commission, you are interested in potentially doing some joint collaboration with them.
At least knowing the schedule, who's gonna present, and might give us the opportunity to see that presentation. Not kind of like on site, but at least we have knowledge of what's going on.
Exactly.
And if one of those cities has already scheduled things out, I'm fine by that.
Oh yeah, they've done the work and invited it to show up. It sounds great.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, for this, it wouldn't be the best room
Yeah.
to do a panel.
With yeah.
And I actually think a panel would be very interesting to have several organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you all interested in the January one? It's I'd have to look up that it's disability programs.
Did you say that there was one organization that applied to us?
Yeah, we did not put them. So the 3 were not even applicants for this class. So I just didn't feel applicable to me.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting, but I don't think it really aligns with our work plan.
True, but if they're planning to apply to us
It might,
again, might be some
An opportunity to learn about them.
The other one I think was Kindering who was on the list. And we've had a presentation from Kindering before.
Yeah.
Or they've been for public comment.
And that's another thing they could.
That's true. Yeah, but that's 2 minutes. Well, maybe 4. I can give them 4 minutes. But you can't ask questions technically on public comment. So yeah, a little more restrictive.
I know the rules.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't like that.
I know rules. Okay, so yes, joint opportunities sounds great. I'll let you know what those look like coming up. And then this is a ways away, but while it's fresh in your mind.
I'm laughing. You just got a pay raise, so you're good.
So for our next cycle, we've been doing these equity trainings in a joint fashion. This last year, Bellevue did their own thing. So I just wanted to check in with you as we're planning for 2 years in advance. Is there interest in different types of equity training in preparation for the grant review cycle? Are you okay with joint? Do we want to do our own thing? Do we want to rebring this topic back when it gets closer?
Okay, we did have a debrief about this.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one didn't work for me, but I was virtual.
Yes, virtual was really not set up for that.
It wasn't set up for it. They didn't give us the handouts that everybody in the room did. But that was my fault for not showing up.
Well, yeah.
Well, they shouldn't say it's not your fault for if something is presented as a virtual
Right.
opportunity, they had not set it up to turning on a camera and saying, yeah, you can attend virtually is not the same as incorporating the virtual attendant into the.
Right. I can't remember. Were you virtual? Or?
I was there and I thought how they handled the virtual was terrible.
Oh,
okay.
It was
turn a camera on and call it virtual. It takes a lot more than that to be effective.
Yeah.
Personal opinion.
Yeah, no. It was a missed opportunity.
It was a miss, I completely agree.
Yeah, poor preparation on that.
Yeah, and I have to admit that the little bit I was able to pick up on, okay, the very first time I was a commissioner, and it was during COVID, and we had something virtually. I mean, I think different organizations can bring different skill sets. I wasn't crazy about this organization's skill set.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who
No, I know, I get your point.
I can't remember who presented during COVID, but we did it virtually, and I thought it was one person, and I'm sure we could look up in our records.
Yeah.
But I thought she was very, very effective. And we broke out into, what's it like when you're on Zoom chat rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We broke out into chat rooms to talk about it, and then we met in a big group.
Yeah, that was helpful. Okay.
Were you at that one during COVID?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so you know who I'm talking
Yes,
about.
I do. I know the face. I'm forgetting the name, but I have the face in my mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think to get back to do you find joint equity training? Yes, I do find it helpful, and I think I don't want to say it's always good to have a refresher.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always something to work on.
This is Commissioner. I might be in the not popular opinion here. I think, given how we want to connect to our community and connect with each other, I think it's probably best that we try to have our own equity training within our own group. Just because we're, in order to lean in and have those conversations of how we want to help our community, it takes a small group. I think that group that we had last year or in Redmond, I thought it was good information to absorb, but it wasn't hey, how do we move the needle a little bit around our biases, around racism, around work that we're trying to move and have those vulnerable discussions. It wasn't set up that way. And I can imagine for virtual was super tough.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I don't even think we moved, it was just more here's information and we take it as it is. And for me, I was just kind of, I want to build more community with you all around some of the topics we have when it comes to our mission, our strategic plan, our funding. So when we do meet with agencies or organizations that are having those tough, impacts, we can have more of a compassion way. And that's just the way I was kind of thinking about it, is just how do we now lean in a little bit more hard or double down around some of the equity for our agencies within this as well.
Yeah.
That was kind of where I was coming from.
I think it's a good point, because that way you can be a little more specific on questions and the answers, and focus on what is it that the human services are doing and how does it affect what we're.
We've never had training exclusively just for us, have we? It's always been joint.
Yeah.
Is that a budget thing?
Yeah.
In part, I mean, because equity trainers can cost up to $20,000, and so each city is able to contribute what we budgeted
Sure.
for.
Sure.
There is an option though, as far as you can have it joint, but then when you go to your chat rooms, this chat room's for this chat room's for
Oh,
that.
yeah, it's the quiet commissioners in one chat room.
Yes,
That's funny, because at that Redmond one, they specifically steered us away from that.
Yes.
Don't
exactly.
sit next to people you know.
Yeah, I remember feeling I think I suggested that, but I think they wanted it to meet, right? That's the whole point of the joint, is so you can kind of get different perspectives from other commissioners and stuff.
Yeah, I get your point. I mean,
But I would say, and this is just my opinion, I thought our board was kind of an advanced level given to other boards, and that's why I was
We're at what level?
more advanced on our continuum of learning. I thought we were more on the further needle
Oh.
and our baseline, and I just felt like I would have had having deeper discussions with Manny, yourself, you, and around how does that fit our plan, our agencies, and Ford versus
City.
our city. Exactly, right.
Right.
And that's kind of my
That's great. Yeah.
opinion to that.
But I mean, something like that, there's that, Redmond would have a human service commission too, right? So you could mix, okay, this is two groups of human services, chat rooms, type thing. So you still have to focus on the same thing, but not necessarily, okay, all Issaquah people go to this one, type of thing. But human services people go to these two rooms, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Or we could this is just an idea, have this joint session just to get all that information and make a commitment to come to the next Human Services Commission to really dig into it as a group.
Yeah, like that's our only topic is.
Yeah, really dig into it.
And yeah, I like the idea, just thinking practically for our budget and for working with our cities, is that we still, I mean, I will advocate for this input and so that it's set up for us so it works out where we can kind of learn and receive some basic, information, and then we dive deep. Like we take that initiative to dive deep into that.
I would, I guess, well, with our equity board here, I wonder what their onboarding, education, learning, growth.
That's a great question.
Maybe that's something that we can coordinate with them and saying, kind of have that information with them as well.
I like that idea. I go and talk to their staff liaison.
So just doing our own thing. It's like, oh, what is equity doing in terms of their growth?
Right, because through the grant process, I turn to the equity, what the equity people would do, in this situation. I was really focused on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, again, this won't happen for a couple of years, but we start these conversations early. So
Oh,
that's why
absolutely.
it's a little more
Yeah.
fresh in my mind. I wanted to kind of gain that feedback from you all. So like where you guys are headed. These are some great ideas. Okay, so I think that helps me. So what I will do then is finalize this and then bring it to our next meeting for an actual vote. So we'll do it again.
Cool.
Okay,
We're gonna vote on our work plan. Is that what you said? We'll vote on the work plan.
yeah, just to adopt it, basically, with that we discussed. All righty, so that's, yeah. Four.
It looks like Manny has to give his presentation for city council on February 3rd or 4th.
And when we were on the next agenda, I don't report, so if chair and commissioner reports, so Manny, is there anything you want
Any announcements?
on your end that we don't know?
I'm going to pass.
Or any other reports from the commissioners? Murray too, Commissioner Murray, anything from your side too? I want to ignore you on there.
I have a question for Maury. Maury, is your mustache new?
I like it.
It is.
Okay, are you doing
Santa is.
Are you doing Santa anywhere this season?
No, he grows on the spot. He grows out in 2 days too, by the way.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Anyways, sorry, I interrupted the flow. But is there anything you want to report on that's coming from the chair?
No.
Maury, are you interested in the city council?
No. No, Manny, it's all yours, man. I'm not gonna run against you.
There's something here. Am I missing something?
Oh, keep
Yeah.
scrolling. It's, that's,
Oh, yeah.
there's the whole schedule.
Oh.
That's on my staff report. We'll talk
What is
about.
that?
But I do have a youth report I would like to share with you all, if that's okay.
From our amazing little Preston.
Lovely Preston, who
Oh my
unfortunately
goodness.
couldn't be here this evening.
Talk circles around us.
Yes, we are very fortunate to have him on our
No
commission.
kidding.
So he wanted to just share that they complete their YAB Youth Advisory Board. They completed their annual middle school dodgeball tournament.
Awesome.
Our Issaquah Hackathon is planned for the 11th of January. And their teen advocacy recently completed their resume and career planning event on the 12th. We are also planning a city issues mayor debate event for the spring. Well, that would be fun to watch.
Are these notes from Preston?
Yes, this is for, do you hear Preston's voice?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Happy holidays, he says to everyone.
Nice. What a guy.
So wonderful to see some of their stuff that they're doing and his involvement there.
Thank you, Press. Staff report?
Yes, I've got just two things, some hot topics off the press I'd like to share with you all. So from our mayor and city council, I believe there was an email sent to all boards and commission. I've also shared this information with our nonprofit organizations. There will be a city council opening, and the application is a deadline is end of January. You'll see here I included the dates if you have any questions or opportunities to connect with our current mayor and city council members. I know we're joking about it. I know. But I truly want to empower you all here to very much consider this opportunity to serve in our city in this capacity. You are all very capable individuals. I'm talking about all commissioners present and not present. I see you all as leaders in our community, and I know you would make a huge impact on that council. Council decides a lot for the city. They determine some of our work plans. If they say something's important, as staff employees, we will follow, pursue, and complete their tasks that they're requesting. They change strategic plans. They add and delete things. Council has a lot of authority in our city, and they make a huge impact. So having individuals on there, especially from a human services side, who has that knowledge and passion would make a big difference for our community. So in light, we joke, but I do want to say, if anyone ever wanted to consider this, I really would promote and advocate and support you all in this. And maybe this is not the time in season your life to consider this opportunity or this appointment, but I do believe maybe in the future, there will be a time for you all to serve potentially in this capacity if there's interest. So, maybe not this round, but maybe in the future, I hope you do consider this opportunity. I believe in you.
Thank you. Very, very nice pitch.
Yes. Well, wouldn't that be so dandy to have one of you, my commissioners, as a council?
There actually have been several.
It's a very common.
Yeah, to come from Human Services Commission. Paul Winterstein. I can't, not Maria. I can't think of. Anyways, but yeah, there've been some.
Yeah, it's a common step into that world. So
yeah.
Maura, were you saying something?
I feel warm all over. That was a great pitch.
Something,
Still no.
Yeah, that's fair.
You make a great
You all would.
addition to.
You all would be wonderful. Okay, the last thing, just kind of this is more of a city update, but I feel like, how do we not talk about that windstorm, right? That was
Crazy.
I'm not gonna say once in a lifetime, because
Yeah.
Who knows, but that was something that the city was prepared for and wasn't prepared for. And so I just kind of want to share with you some of the city response. I'm very proud of all of our departments and team who quickly responded. So one of the our city mayor's priority area has been emergency management and preparing for extreme situations. One of our newer positions is an emergency manager. And so we have a staff member who has created what we call resilience hubs. These resilient hubs are intended to be in emergency situations. This is a safe place where people can be warm, cool down. What we ended up opening our resilience hub at our senior center and Pickering Barn to be warming and charging stations with the power outage. And so that was our first time initiating these resilience hubs, and there was a very nice quick response to it. And it really, I think, also helped the city stay in touch with what the needs are and what people needed. And so from there, they were able to do additional responses. They opened up the pool for showers for a community member. Not as big as numbers use. I think that was on a Thursday. We had our public works and park operations. You saw them probably working hard on clearing out those roads.
Yeah. all over the
So
place.
emergency vehicles can get through. The number they told me was, last I heard, they're 30% of the way through clearing it all out. So it's going to.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot. There's
That's
a lot
it?
of damage.
Oh,
It's a lot of
wow.
damage.
That
So
is sobering.
Yeah. They'll be working on that for a long time.
Is that including like, is that the city and the trail? Is that the whole big picture or is that?
Yes, the whole bit. I mean, because a lot of the trails, a lot
Yes.
of like the wooded, the areas that you're not super affected, or as visual, are like those areas are still going to clean up. It's just
Okay.
not on the priority list, but they are still working on it. One thing I really want to give a shout out to our friends at the Circle is they really helped us translate some of our so we had flyers and communication that went out about our resilient hubs and charging stations. Challenges obviously in communication when the power is out. Some people had service, some people did not, but I was very thankful that we were able to lean into our partners who could provide translate information in Spanish and Mandarin. Our behavioral health team did an amazing job following up with those who have encampments in the area or unhoused to make sure that they were safe and had the shelter and resources they needed and get them connected to shelters. They were very much supporting our community, some incredible work there. We also opened up a debris hall, so that was well received and well utilized. And so that was helpful to have that partnership and resource. I
will mention that community meals didn't skip a beat.
That's amazing.
They had all their meals as planned. Yeah. And I don't think everybody necessarily knew about it.
Yeah.
Because they kind of wouldn't have assumed that. But because the community hall is part of the fire station, the fire station, of course, has generators.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the community hall didn't have any problem with electricity at all.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were able to get volunteers who are experiencing most likely their own,
right. They got the
damage, they were still able to provide that services. So,
right.
As a city in emergency situations, we always talk about severe weather. So cold or the snow or extreme heat, or, we've experienced some landslides. So power outages and windstorms was not one that was highly talked about. But
you never know.
You never know, but it is the one that we saw and had to respond to quickly. So always opportunities for growth and learning and how do we do better next time. But overall, the city did respond very promptly. And we also made Issaquah specifically made national news. And one of our staff at the senior center was quoted in the New York Times. So, yes. So
wow.
very impressive work during a kind of a scary time. So.
I happen to be quoted. Okay, that trailhead as you head out to the I-90 interchange and
Tradition Plateau.
No, the trailhead. Okay, here as you go out Sunset.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go like up to Issaquah Highlands, there's a trailhead parking lot on your right.
Oh, those houses were.
Right. Well, I was over there looking at the damage one day, and this woman walked up to me and said, "Can I interview you?" And I said, "Oh, why?" And she said, "Well, I'm with the AP." And so she interviewed me, and I made a point of saying I was with the Issaquah Human Services Commission, and that we're here to look after people and make sure the needs are met for the community members. Well, the Guardian, the AP sends out their little nuggets. The Guardian picked up on my quote, so I showed up in the Guardian, which is a
British newspaper.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
I'm giving this a shout out.
But I will mention that the Seattle Times just did an article, and was it just a few days ago? And Issaquah was featured as the hardest hit.
Yeah, but it is true. Talking to our other human services at different cities. I mean, they got hit, but nothing like Issaquah.
We're the tree city too.
Yeah, exactly. So
I have a friend that lives at Snoqualmie Ridge, and she said they just thought it was the funniest thing because they deal with wind and outages all the time. And she was like, it just completely bypassed us and we're listening to all of you whine. I'm like, well, it was kind of serious.
Oh,
you know?
it bypassed them.
But
She
they
had.
definitely get hit
And
pretty
it
hard.
bypassed Seattle.
Mhm.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
That came right to the pass.
Yeah. Yeah. We were hard. So anyways, just, I'm glad you were all safe. I'm glad we have power now.
Oh, God, no kidding.
Yeah, that was good lessons learned.
And I really liked Mayor Polly's, she was out there doing YouTubes. I mean,
Yeah.
and she wasn't, she didn't have her makeup on, look beautiful or anything, she looked normal. She looked
Yeah.
like a normal person that
Yeah.
was struggling through the cyclone,
Yeah.
I thought all those were very helpful. Yeah, for those people that could,
I was gonna say.
that could get.
Yeah, that was also that's the challenge of power. You really can't.
Yeah.
You're knocking on doors, and our behavioral team did that. They did a lot of wellness checks
That's
because
impressive.
our PD were very swamped, and so we had our team kind of, for those that they were concerned about, they were able to do those wellness checks and provide food and blankets to some apartment complexes. So
Yeah.
it's very good.
I never,
Right, no,
I was gonna say,
my-
I never had a problem with the internet because I would go out and go somewhere and get my phone charged and I would just use my hotspot
Yeah.
to run my laptop. Yeah,
Work for everybody.
yeah.
I had a really good book on my Kindle. It was 600 pages and I finished it.
Nice work.
Okay, Manny, what were you gonna say?
I was just looking at other business. There was a couple of things I just wanted to remind myself that I wanted to talk about for a minute. Just,
Yeah, I'm done with my staff
We're
report,
good?
so we're gonna.
Okay. No, well, with talking about the storm, is there any indication that Issaquah is gonna put the electrical underground?
Oh, I have not heard, but I will keep you posted.
I mean,
It's underground in places. I mean, up in the Highlands, it's underground.
Yeah,
I would imagine all the newer places it is.
yeah,
I'm
but
just thinking
I'm sure
about-
that is a,
I'm sure it's a
Will be
budget
considered.
thing, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the Issaquah Hobart Road, it was a mess.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was.
so I mean, that's something to consider. I don't know who takes care of that, but.
Not human services, but I know people who probably could, so
Yeah.
I'll talk to
And-
them.
And also, what would it take to amend our bylaws so that our junior candidate,
Preston?
Preston, or whoever in that position is a voting member?
I'll have to talk to our clerks about that. Yeah, I'll have an answer to you guys at next meeting.
Oh,
Be a voting member. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want them to have an option to run for a chair or vice chair position?
Yeah,
I mean,
Would that also include the student that's been the
oh, Elena, she was an intern.
Oh, okay, so that's
it's a little bit
different. That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna have to look into that, because he might be a voting member, but
I would look to see what the other youth representatives,
I don't think he's a,
because most boards and commissions have a youth.
yeah, exactly.
but there's like an age thing or. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I feel like we've talked about this before and I just don't remember the answer. So let me look into it and see if it can be a topic.
I would not necessarily advocate that they be chair, that they lead the meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would do something like, the chair would, I mean,
We can invite them maybe.
would buy him and says, okay,
For
Oh, but-
experience.
this,
But
he's
not-
gonna be in charge.
not
you
for a
know,
whole
that
year,
He's gonna be
yes.
standing for me or whatever, I'm gonna be here to help or whatever the case may be. But,
Yeah,
I think
there's
to
interest.
limit them to,
To give them experience, yeah.
yeah, do experience, because it'd be great for them to, write on a resume that I was, this or that and.
That's true.
Leadership
true.
opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, let me look into that. I think that's a great suggestion, and we can talk to Preston here. Hopefully he can join us in January and see if he has interest in chairing
Well,
for a meeting and
Yeah. And whether it's Preston or not, but whoever the
Exactly.
junior person is, that,
right.
give him
if
that opportunity.
we're recognizing that their information and their input is important, then they should be able to vote.
And I do vaguely, I was talking about this, but I can't remember either.
Yeah, I brought it up before, but.
Yeah,
No,
I
I-
can't remember.
It's maybe
How it
too
turned out.
COVID. Everything's changed.
We all agreed that it was a very important the position is very important to us.
Yeah, we want them to have appropriate say in our work. Totally agree with you.
That was.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Manny.
For me, Commissioner Jaime, I would say, given the windstorm, I do want to recognize all of Issaquah staff. You know, just the awareness of bringing. I keep going back to connection and community. I was the senior center a couple of times, and just feeling, I would say, people feeling welcome. That kind of goes at the top. The people that worked at the senior center making the food and all that. So I think it's just a reminder of just how important human services is for the city of Issaquah. Sometimes we just say, hey, we fund a couple of programs and so forth, but just the fact that it was just a reminder of how much our vulnerable adults too, vulnerable folks need, when it comes to access to services and resources. And that's just my 2 cents and what I saw. And perhaps, maybe partnership with private agencies. I saw, I want to highlight, there was a company, let's see here, Spring Hill Suites by Marriott there in Issaquah. They were kind of opening up their generator for people with any Wi-Fi. So I was kind of going back and forth from senior center to them. So just stuff like that, where I think partnerships with private agencies, where when it comes to emergency, they're pretty open for, and I saw many young folks in that space. So those are just kind of some observations that I saw during the windstorm. So,
and I have to add that hats off to the people of Issaquah too, because I know in our neighborhood people stepped up and helped out.
It was amazing.
Help cut trees and things like that. So.
And actually, I want to give a shout out to Swedish Hospital. Okay, because it was Tuesday night, right? Okay, so Wednesday morning, I went to Safeway to see, and they were running on a generator, and they didn't have any. Okay, this is something I learned. The only outlets that have electricity are ones when you have a generator, or ones that are red. Did you know that? You have to look for a red outlet.
Oh.
Yeah, and so they didn't have any red outlets. And then somebody said, let's go to Swedish Hospital. So a bunch of us went to Swedish.
We went.
Where?
Did you go there?
Really?
And we were just hanging out in the hallway in the lower section.
They had Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
They had
and
Wi-Fi.
we were all looking for red outlets, and Swedish was great.
That's really wonderful to hear.
They were just great. The only time they asked us to move was when a bunch of us were sitting on the floor and they couldn't get their carts through. But they were just great. And I heard that some people then, once Swedish did get power, and some people still did, like the people that were on Issaquah Hobart Road, they were still hanging out in the living room at Swedish, or like, the piano room. But yeah, Wednesday I was sitting on the floor in a hallway at Swedish charging my phone. Yeah.
Good job, Issaquah.
Yeah.
We can be very neighborly, I think.
Oh,
in
for
times
sure.
of need and emergency.
So how was it where you live?
We were fine down south. My folks are in Miramont, so we spent a couple of days with them clearing out there. They had 25 trees fall on their property.
25.
It destroyed their deck, fortunately not their house. But yeah, it was, I want to say almost 1 in 4 houses in Miramont had a tree on their home. It was a sight I've never seen before. Yeah. So yeah, we were helping my folks out during that time, and again, it was a beautiful thing just meeting the neighbors that I grew up with and seeing them all come out and, talking to folks. I mean, it really brought people together in a really special and unique way.
So did your folks have a generator?
No.
So you guys spent several days there in the cold?
No, well, I mean, just there in the
Help.
daytime to help out with clearing out their damage that they had.
Okay, and I didn't catch this. You said there were 25 trees, but none of them hit the home?
Just the deck, their deck got destroyed, and like the kid play area that my dad built.
Oh.
It's very sad. But at least their house is okay. So.
I had a tree come down, but it didn't hit my home. So
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
And again, neighbors and friends came out with their chainsaws.
Exactly. It was a very a beautiful thing in some chaos, and
Right.
like some beauty came out of it. So
took a couple of trips up and down the hill, and people were trying to put some of their debris in the back of their cars, and I just threw it in my truck. you
Yeah.
know, it's-
Yeah, that's what you gotta do.
All right.
All right, other business or announcements?
That was it.
Well, I do have a question. How was it up in Providence during the cyclone?
You're muted.
There were 1,100 people at Providence Point. All of their power was out. There was no one with power, no one with Wi-Fi. There were two small community centers that people came to charge their phones. The demand was enough with all the phones charging that somebody tried to use a microwave with the generator and blew the generator, so they had to reboot that and get that going again. But there were people that came down with their Costco Swedish meatball bags and fed everyone and made rice, and it was very a huge community effort, and everyone, it felt really good. But 1,100 people, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you didn't have trees fall down on any of the structures, right?
No, there were quite a few trees that fell down. I don't know whether they hit the structures or not, but you certainly couldn't drive around. They were across all the roads. The problem with this, the reason that I heard that this happened is all of our trees are used to getting wind from the west and from the south, sometimes from the north, but this was a huge vacuum, a huge low point out in the to the west of us, and so it sucked all this air in from the mountains. So it was all coming in from the east. And if you look at all the trees, at least the ones in Providence Point and along 228th and along East Lake Sammamish Parkway, all of the trees were falling to the west. Every one of them.
Yeah, my tree fell to the west.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
I wish it actually had fallen the other way. If it fell the other way, it would have fallen in the road, and then my HOA people would have been in charge of it. But because it fell on my property.
Oh, that's so inconvenient.
Well, it all worked out.
All right, well, thank you all. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 15, 2025. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Happy holidays,
Thank you.
everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.